The blue lights on the space station's control panel started blinking at 3 a.m. Earth time. Han Kim rubbed his tired eyes and looked at the screen again. The objects had appeared out of nowhere, just past Mars' orbit. There were 12 of them, each bigger than any spaceship humans had ever built. "Dr. Lee, you need to see this," Han called to his colleague. Hanbai Lee walked over quickly, her tablet computer in hand. She had been waiting for this moment her whole life. As Earth's top expert on possible alien life, she knew this was what they had prepared for. "How fast are they moving?" she asked, pushing her glasses up her nose. "Too fast. They'll reach Earth in 6 days," Han said. His fingers moved across the keyboard as he sent alert messages to Earth's defense leaders. The news spread quickly. Within hours, every TV channel showed the same pictures of the strange ships. They looked like giant silver eggs with glowing blue lines running across their surface. People around the world watched their screens, both scared and excited about humanity's first contact with aliens. Major Ta Sum Kang walked into the control room with 3 cups of coffee. "The president wants updates every hour," he said, handing drinks to Han and Hanbai. "The Chinese and European space stations are tracking them too." Hanbai studied the data on her screen. "These ships are using technology we can't even understand. Look at how they move. It's like they're sliding through space itself." The next 5 days were busy. Earth's governments tried to send messages to the alien ships in every way they could think of. Radio signals, light patterns, mathematical sequences. They tried everything. The aliens stayed silent. On the 6th day, the ship stopped near Earth's moon. Han watched as one of the eggs opened up. A smaller ship came out and headed toward the lunar base, where 200 people lived and worked. "They're responding to our welcome message," Hanbai said excitedly. Her smile disappeared when she saw new data appear on her screen. "Wait, something's wrong. These energy readings." Before she could finish, a bright blue beam shot from the small ship to the lunar base. The entire base went dark. No signals, no power, nothing. "Get me the lunar base," Han shouted. Static was the only answer. The screens showing the base's vital signs were all flat lines. Then they heard it, a voice that seemed to come from everywhere, speaking in perfect English, but with a strange echoing sound that made everyone's skin crawl. "Evolutionary assessment complete. Species, human. Status, flawed development. Conclusion, removal required." Hanbai's hands shook as she recorded the message. "They've been studying us this whole time. The ships, the silence. It was all just to analyze us." More small ships came out of the silver eggs. They started moving toward Earth's satellites and space stations. Each time they fired their blue beams, another piece of human technology went dark. "They don't see us as equals," Tai Sung said, watching the disaster unfold. "To them, we're just a mistake that needs to be corrected." Han noticed something interesting as he watched the attacks. The aliens completely ignored any satellites or stations that had lost power or appeared broken. They moved past them like they weren't even there. "Look at that," he said, pointing to his screen. "They're not attacking anything that looks dead or broken. It's like they don't see it as a threat." Hanbai typed quickly, saving this observation. "They might think in a completely different way than us. Maybe they can't understand that something inactive could still be dangerous." As emergency alarms blared around them, Han kept watching the aliens ignore the dead technology. In his mind, a crazy idea started to form. If the aliens didn't pay attention to things that looked dead, "I need to talk to the Defense Council," he said suddenly, standing up. "I think I know how we might survive this. But they're going to think I'm completely crazy." The aliens had made their first move, but they had also shown their first weakness. Now it was humanity's turn to respond, and Han Kim was about to suggest the craziest military strategy in human history. The emergency meeting room was dead quiet as Han Kim finished explaining his idea. 20 military leaders from different countries sat around the table, staring at him like he had lost his mind. He could understand why. His plan did sound crazy. "Let me get this straight," General Thompson said, breaking the silence. "You want us to turn off everything, all our defenses, while we're being attacked?" "Yes," Duhan said firmly. "The aliens ignore anything that looks dead or broken. We can use that. We play dead, like a possum." Han Bai stood up next to him, holding her research tablet. "The aliens, which call themselves the Nexus, think in a completely straight line. My team has studied their attack patterns. They don't understand tricks or lies. They believe what they see." Major Ta Sung Kang pointed to the large screen showing Earth's current defenses. "We've lost 40% of our space stations already. Their weapons are too strong. Fighting head-on will get us killed." "This is madness," the Russian general said, shaking his head. "We cannot just turn everything off and hope they ignore us." Duhan looked at Lieutenant Ji-won Park, who sat quietly in the corner. "Lieutenant, tell them about your test." Ji-won stood up. She was small but carried herself with confidence. "My team tested Captain Kim's theory yesterday. We shut down a small research station near Saturn. When the alien ships came by, they completely ignored it. They couldn't even see us scanning them from inside." The room burst into loud arguments. Some leaders wanted to fight back with everything they had. Others thought they should try to talk to the aliens again. A few were ready to give up completely. Han Bai's voice cut through the noise. "The Nexus sees themselves as perfect beings. They think they're the best life form in the universe. But this makes them blind. They can't imagine that something less advanced could trick them." "We found something else," Tai Sung added, pressing some buttons on the table's control panel. A new image appeared on the screen. It showed the alien ship's energy patterns. They talk to each other through a network, like a big brain connecting all of them. But it only works when they think something is a threat. Duhan stood straighter. "This is why Operation Ghost will work. We shut down everything that makes us look dangerous. Cities, power plants, military bases, everything goes dark. They'll think we've given up and died." "And then what?" someone asked. "Then we strike back," Ji-won said, smiling slightly. "We're already working on weapons that can work without power signatures. The aliens won't see them coming." Han Bai showed more data on the screen. "The Nexus doesn't understand death the way we do. To them, dead things stay dead. They don't check again. They don't guard against them. Dead things are simply removed from their thinking." The room grew quiet again as everyone thought about this. Duhan looked at each face around the table. "I know it's scary," he said. "I know it goes against everything we've learned about fighting. But sometimes the craziest plans work because nobody expects them." Finally, the Chinese general spoke up. "How do we know they won't just kill us all while we're powered down?" "Because that's not how they work," Han Bai explained. "They're like a cleanup crew. They remove what they think is dangerous or alive. Things that look already dead are beneath their notice." Ji-won stepped forward. "Let my team run a bigger test. Give us one city. We'll prove it can work." The leaders looked at each other. Slowly, heads started nodding. What choice did they have? Their best weapons were useless against the alien ships. 3 days, General Thompson said finally. "You have 3 days to prove this crazy idea can work. If it fails..." "It won't fail," Duhan said firmly. "Because we humans have something the Nexus doesn't understand. We know how to play dead. And we know how to strike back when nobody expects it." As the meeting ended, Duhan looked out the window at the night sky. Somewhere up there, the Nexus thought they were winning. They thought humans were simple creatures who could only fight or run away. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The city of Busan went dark at exactly midnight. All lights, power stations, and electronic devices shut down at once. From space, it looked like someone had pulled a giant plug. G1 Park watched from her hidden bunker as the alien ships moved toward the city. "They're taking the bait," she whispered into her radio. The radio used old technology, so simple that the Nexus didn't even notice its signals. 3 silver ships flew over Busan. Their blue scanning beams swept the streets, looking for signs of life. G1 held her breath. 2 million people were hiding underground, in bunkers designed to look empty to alien scans. "How long do we wait?" asked one of her team members. "As long as it takes," Ji-1 answered. "This has to work. The whole world is watching." The test lasted 3 days. The aliens searched the city, found nothing alive, and moved on. They didn't leave any guards behind. Just as Duhan had predicted, they thought dead meant dead. The news spread quickly. Operation Ghost would begin worldwide. 1 week later, Duhan stood in the Global Command Center, deep underground. The walls were covered with screens showing cities around the world. One by one, they were going dark. "New York is down," Tae-sung reported. "London following. Tokyo ready in 10 minutes. Hanbai worked at her computer, watching the Nexus's reactions. "They're confused," she said. "Their network is buzzing with questions. They've never seen a species do this before." The plan was working better than anyone had hoped. As each city powered down, the aliens spent less time searching it. They were starting to ignore the dead areas completely. "Beijing is dark," Tae-sung announced. "That's all major cities now offline." Duhan watched the alien ships on the main screen. They were spreading out, looking for any remaining signs of life. But humans had learned their lesson from Busan. The bunkers were perfect. No heat signatures, no power readings, nothing to show that millions of people were hiding inside. "How are the people holding up?" Duhan asked. Hanbai checked her reports. "Better than expected. The underground farms are working. Air recyclers are running on minimal power. We can stay hidden for months if we need to." "We won't need months," Ji-1 said, walking into the room. She had just returned from setting up more hidden weapon stations. "The aliens are already starting to leave Earth's orbit. They think we're gone." The Nexus ships were indeed moving away. They left only a few ships behind to start building their own bases. They thought they had won without a fight. "They're so sure of themselves," Tae-sung said, shaking his head. "They really believe we just gave up and died." Hanbai suddenly sat up straight in her chair. "Everyone, come here. You need to see this." They gathered around her screen. She had been studying the signals between the alien ships. "Look at this pattern," she said, pointing to a wave of data. "Their network isn't just for communication. It's their weakness." "What do you mean?" Duhan asked. "The Nexus thinks as one mind, right? But that means they all share the same blind spots. If we can trick one part of their network, we can trick all of them," Ji-1 finished, understanding immediately. Duhan smiled for the first time in weeks. "How long until we can use this information?" "Give me a few days," Hanbai said. "I need to be sure." Outside the bunker, the Nexus continued building their bases on what they thought was a dead world. They never noticed the small signals passing between hidden bunkers. They never saw the weapons being prepared in powered-down factories. They never suspected that humanity was getting ready for the biggest surprise attack in history. In the command center, Duhan looked at his team. "Keep watching them," he said. "Keep learning. Soon we'll show them that playing dead was just the first part of our plan." The greatest deception in human history was working perfectly. The real question was, what would the Nexus do when they realized they had been fooled by a species they thought was too simple to lie? G1 Park crawled through the dark tunnel, her heart beating fast. Above her, an alien patrol walked past, their heavy steps echoing through the ground. She waited until the sound faded away before moving forward again. "Target is 50 meters ahead," whispered her teammate through the old-style radio. These simple radios were perfect. The Nexus thought they were too basic to be a threat. Ji-1 reached the end of the tunnel and looked through a tiny gap in the wall. The alien base stood there, its blue lights glowing in the night. She pulled out her scanner, a new type that didn't give off any power signals. "I can see their command center," she whispered back. "Starting the scan now." All across the world, other teams were doing the same thing. While the Nexus thought humans were dead, Jai-1's people were learning everything about them. How they moved, how they built things, and most importantly, how they thought. Back in the main bunker, Du-Han Kim studied the information coming in from all the spy teams. "They really don't check anything twice," he said to Tai-Sung. "Once they think something is dead, they never look at it again." "Their biggest weakness is their pride," Tai-Sung replied. He pointed to a map showing alien bases around the world. "They're not even guarding their important places properly. Why would they? Dead things can't attack." Han Bai-Li worked at her computer nearby, her fingers moving fast across the keyboard. She had made an amazing discovery about the Nexus's network, and now she was turning it into a weapon. "Their whole network is based on living signals," she explained to Du-Han. "They can't imagine that dead things could make signals, so they don't protect against them at all." "How long until your virus is ready?" Du-Han asked. 2 more days, Han Bai said. "It's like teaching a computer to speak an alien language, but it's working. When it's done, it will go through their network like a storm." Meanwhile, in secret factories deep underground, humans were building new weapons. These weapons were special. They looked dead and broken on the outside, but inside they were ready to fight. Jai-1's team had found something else important. The Nexus didn't understand backup plans. They never thought about what might happen if their first plan failed. They didn't know how to handle surprises. "It's like they can't think sideways," Jai-1 explained to Du-Han after she returned from her mission. "They only think in straight lines. If something doesn't fit their idea of how things should work, they can't deal with it." The humans used this knowledge well. They stored weapons in places the Nexus thought were useless. They hid soldiers in buildings that looked destroyed. They put their best technology inside what looked like broken machines. Out in the Kuiper Belt, far past Neptune, Earth's last space fleet waited quietly. The ships were dark, looking like dead metal floating in space. But inside, crews kept everything ready. They would only need 6 hours to power up and fight. "The Nexus thinks they're so smart," Tai-Sung said, watching the alien ships on their screens. "But they don't understand the most important thing about humans." "What's that?" asked a young soldier. "We know how to wait," Tai-Sung answered. "We know that sometimes you have to be patient to win. And we're very good at surprising our enemies." Du-Han looked at the latest reports from Jai-1's teams. Soon, they would have everything they needed. The weapons were almost ready. Han Bai's virus was nearly finished. The space fleet was in position. "Send the message to all teams," he told Tai-Sung. "Tell them to be ready. When we wake up from playing dead, we need to strike hard and fast. The Nexus won't expect it, and they won't know how to handle it." The humans continued their secret work, hidden in the shadows of their dead world. The Nexus still thought they had won easily. They were about to learn that sometimes the most dangerous enemy is the one you think you've already beaten. The Nexus built their main base right in the middle of what used to be Seoul. They thought it was funny, in their alien way, to build on top of what they believed was a dead city. They didn't know that under their feet, in deep bunkers, humans watched their every move. "They're getting comfortable," Jai-1 said, looking at her screens. She sat in a hidden room just 200 meters below the alien base. "They think they own Earth now." The aliens had spread their bases across the planet. But they made a big mistake. They didn't put many soldiers in each place. Why would they? There was nothing alive to fight against. "How many bases have they built?" Du-Han asked through the old radio. 57 major ones, Jai-1 answered. "But they're not connected well. Each one thinks it's just cleaning up a dead world. They don't expect any trouble." In another bunker, Hanbai worked on the final tests of her virus. She had found out something amazing about the Nexus's network. It wasn't just how they talked to each other. It was what made them think as one group. The virus is ready, she told Duhan. Once it gets into their network, it will make them stop thinking as one. Each alien will have to think for itself. And they don't know how to do that, Duhan said, understanding why this was so important. The Nexus had always thought as one group. They didn't know how to make decisions alone. Tai Sung came into the room with new reports. The space fleet is in position, he said. Every ship is still dark, but they're ready to power up as soon as we give the signal. They had hidden the fleet carefully. Some ships looked like broken satellites. Others hid behind space junk. The Nexus didn't look closely at any of them. Dead things weren't worth their time. What about the ground teams? Duhan asked. Ready, Tai Sung said. Jaewon's people have put hidden weapons near every alien base. The Special Forces teams are in position. Everyone is just waiting for your order. Duhan looked at the big map showing all the alien bases. The Nexus had made their bases in a perfect pattern, everything spaced exactly right. It showed how they thought. Everything had to be perfect and organized. But this would help the humans. The aliens' perfect pattern made them easy to predict. Every base was built the same way. Every patrol followed the same path. They never changed anything. Look at this, Hanbai said, pointing to her computer. They're starting to build new cities. They really think Earth is theirs now. The aliens were building their own cities on Earth. They didn't hurry. Why should they? They thought they had all the time in the world. They never guarded their building sites. They never checked for humans. They just built and built, thinking they were alone on a dead planet. Time to send the final messages, Duhan said. He picked up his radio and spoke to all the hidden bunkers around the world. All teams, check in. Are you ready? One by one, the answers came back. Every team was in place. Every weapon was ready. The space fleet waited silently. Hanbai's virus was prepared to attack the alien network. Remember, Duhan said to everyone, when we strike, we hit them all at once. Every base, every ship, every building site. They won't have time to understand what's happening. Jaewon's voice came through the radio from her hidden room under Seoul. The aliens above us are having some kind of meeting. They're bringing in more of their leaders. Duhan smiled. This was perfect. The more alien leaders were on Earth, the better their plan would work. Get ready, he told his people. Soon we'll show the Nexus that they should have checked more carefully. Sometimes dead things don't stay dead. The trap was set. Now they just had to wait for the perfect moment to spring it. Hanbai's fingers moved across her keyboard, typing the final commands. Her virus was ready. Around her, the command center was completely quiet. Everyone held their breath, waiting. Virus launching in 10 seconds, she said. Her voice was calm, but her hands shook slightly. Everything depended on this moment. Duhan watched the main screen. It showed all the alien bases around the world. In a few seconds, they would find out if months of playing dead had been worth it. 5 seconds, Hanbai counted. 4, 3, 2, 1. She pressed the final key. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the alien network lit up like a Christmas tree on their screens. It's working, Hanbai said excitedly. The virus is spreading through their whole network. They can't stop it because they never built any defenses against dead signals. All around the world, the Nexus started to feel something they had never felt before. Confusion. Their single mind was breaking apart. For the first time, each alien had to think for itself. Send the signal, Duhan ordered. Wake up the fleet. Start all attacks. Now. Tai Sung sent the message to every hidden human team on Earth and in space. It was time to stop playing dead. In orbit, Earth's hidden fleet came to life. Ships that had looked like space junk suddenly lit up their engines. The Nexus ships didn't even have time to understand what was happening. First shots fired in space, Taesung reported, watching the battle screens. Our ships are hitting them before they can raise their shields. Under the alien base in Seoul, Jaewon smiled as she pressed her own button. All around the base, weapons that had been hidden in broken buildings and piles of trash powered up at once. Ground attacks starting, she said through her radio. They're completely surprised. They're running around like confused ants. The Nexus had never expected an attack from things they thought were dead. Their soldiers didn't know what to do. Without their network telling them how to think, they couldn't make decisions fast enough. The virus is blocking all their communications, Hanbai reported. They can't call for help. They can't even talk to each other properly. In space, the battle was going better than anyone had hoped. The human ships had been hiding so long that they knew exactly where to hit the alien vessels. 15 Nexus ships were destroyed in the first 10 minutes. They're trying to run away, Taesung said, watching the space battle. But they can't decide where to go. Each ship is trying to do something different. On the ground, Jaewon's teams were taking control of alien bases one by one. The Nexus soldiers were strong, but they didn't know how to fight without orders from their network. They had never trained to think for themselves. Seoul base is captured, Jaewon reported, moving on to their backup command center. Do-han watched as more and more alien bases fell to the human attacks. The Nexus had built everything perfectly, but that made them easy to defeat. Once humans knew how to attack one base, they knew how to attack them all. Launch the second wave, he ordered. More hidden weapons powered up. More ships joined the battle. The Nexus didn't have time to understand what was happening. Major problem, Hanbai suddenly shouted. They're trying to restart their network. If they connect again, they might be able to fight back better. Do-han looked at the battle screens. They had surprised the Nexus, but now they needed to move faster. They had to win before the aliens could fix their network. Tell all teams to attack faster, he ordered. We can't give them time to think. Hit them harder. Hit them now. The first strike had worked perfectly, but the real test was just beginning. Could humans win before the Nexus learned how to fight back? The Nexus finally understood what was happening, but understanding came too late. All across Earth, their perfect bases were falling to human attacks. In space, their ships were being destroyed by a fleet they had thought was just floating junk. They're trying to fight back, Taesung reported. He pointed to the main screen where red dots showed alien ships moving. But each ship is doing something different. They can't work together anymore. Hanbai worked frantically at her computer. The aliens were trying to fix their broken network, but her virus kept changing, kept breaking their connections in new ways. They don't understand how the virus works, she said. Every time they try to fix one part of their network, the virus attacks another part. They've never seen anything like this. In Seoul, Jaewon led her team through the captured alien base. The halls were full of confused Nexus soldiers. Some tried to fight. Others just stood still, unable to decide what to do without orders from their network. These aliens don't know how to think alone, Jaewon said through her radio. All their lives, they've been part of one big mind. Now they have to think for themselves, and they can't do it fast enough. Do-han received reports from around the world. Human armies were coming out of their hiding places. Weapons that had looked like trash were destroying alien defenses. The Nexus was losing everywhere. Sir, Ta-sung called out. Look at this. On the screen, they saw something new. The alien ships were gathering in one place, hundreds of them, forming a big group above Earth. They're planning something, Do-han said. Without their network, they're going back to simple plans. Hit the enemy with everything at once. Hanbai studied the data from the gathered ships. They're trying to build a new, smaller network, she said. They think if they get close enough together, they can think as one group again. Can they do it? Duhan asked. Maybe, Hanbai answered, but it won't be as strong as their old network. And she smiled. They're making it easier for us to hurt them all at once. Duhan understood. By gathering together, the aliens were making themselves an easy target. He grabbed his radio. All Space Fleet ships, he ordered, move to these positions. Surround the alien fleet. When they try to connect their new network, hit them with everything we have. Jaiwan's voice came through the radio. Ground teams are taking their last bases, she reported. The Nexus soldiers are giving up. Without their network, they don't even want to fight anymore. The aliens had never lost before. They had never even thought they could lose. Now they were learning how it felt to be defeated by creatures they had thought were too simple to be dangerous. Their ships are powering up. Ta Sung shouted. They're about to attack. Now, Duhan ordered. The human fleet fired all at once. Their attacks hit the gathered alien ships from all sides. At the same time, Hanbai launched a stronger version of her virus. The results were amazing. As the aliens tried to build their new network, the virus got inside it immediately. Their ships lost power. Their weapons stopped working. The mighty Nexus fleet began to fall apart. We're winning, Taesung said quietly, almost like he couldn't believe it. No, Duhan corrected him. We've already won. They just don't know it yet. On Earth, the last alien bases surrendered. In space, the remaining Nexus ships tried to escape, but the human fleet caught them easily. The aliens had thought humans were simple creatures. They had thought playing dead meant being weak. Now they were learning the truth. Sometimes the most dangerous enemy is the one that looks harmless. Send the message to all human forces, Duhan ordered. The Earth is ours again. Victory was close, but Duhan knew they had to finish this completely. They couldn't leave any chance for the Nexus to come back. The final battle was about to begin. The remaining Nexus ships gathered for one final attack. They had lost their network, their bases, and most of their fleet, but they still couldn't believe that simple humans had beaten them. They had to try one last time. They're charging their biggest weapons, Taesung reported. He watched as the alien ships formed a circle above Earth. They're going to try to destroy everything, even their own captured bases. Duhan looked at the battle screens. The aliens were desperate now. They didn't care about winning anymore. They just wanted to hurt Earth as much as they could. They still don't understand, Hanbai said, shaking her head. They think if they can't have Earth, nobody should. They're acting like angry children. All ships, get ready, Duhan ordered through his radio. They're about to learn their final lesson about humans. The Nexus ships fired all their weapons at once. The energy beams were bigger than anything they had used before, but human ships were ready. They had studied how alien weapons worked. They knew exactly what to do. Now, Duhan shouted. The human fleet split apart, moving in ways the Nexus had never seen before. Some ships dodged the alien attacks. Others used special shields that Hanbai had designed. The huge energy beams missed their targets or hit ships that were ready for them. Their weapons are empty, Taesung said. They used everything in one attack. Our turn, Duhan said calmly. Show them how Earth fights back. Every human ship fired at once. Weapons that had been hidden for months finally showed their full power. The Nexus ships tried to defend themselves, but without their network, each ship had to fight alone. They didn't know how. On her computer, Hanbai launched the final version of her virus. It was stronger than anything she had used before. It didn't just break the aliens' connections, it turned their own technology against them. Their ships are shutting down, she reported. The virus is taking control of everything. Jaiwan's voice came through the radio from the ground. All captured bases are secured, she said. The last Nexus soldiers are surrendering. They're saying they want to learn how to think for themselves. The great alien fleet was falling apart. Ships crashed into each other. Weapons fired at random. The mighty Nexus, who had thought they were perfect, were being destroyed by the creatures they had called simple. "Send the message," Duhan ordered. He stood up straight, his voice strong and clear. "Tell them, Earth is not for taking. We are not simple. We are not weak. We are humans, and this is our home." The last alien ships tried to run away, but Earth's fleet had them surrounded. There was nowhere to go. The Nexus had to face something they had never faced before: total defeat. "They're sending a message," Hanbai said suddenly, "in every language they know. They're asking how we did it. They want to understand." Duhan smiled. "Tell them the truth," he said. "Tell them we won because they thought they knew everything. They thought they were perfect. But humans know we're not perfect, and that makes us stronger." The battle was over. Earth had won. Across the planet, people came out of their hiding places. Cities lit up again. The long months of playing dead were finally finished. "What do we do now?" Ta Sung asked. "Now we rebuild," Duhan answered. "And we get ready. The galaxy knows about us now. They know that Earth is strong, that humans are clever. That playing dead was just one of our tricks." Hanbai looked at her screens one last time. The alien network was gone forever, but humanity's network was growing stronger. Earth was ready to take its place among the stars. "The Nexus called us simple," Jai-1 said from the ground. "They called us a mistake, but we proved them wrong. We showed them that sometimes the best survivors are the ones who know how to adapt, how to change, how to surprise their enemies." Earth had won its first space war. The age of playing dead was over. Now it was time for humanity to show the galaxy what they could really do.